Big round of applause for the homie Los, founder of Joyride Records. Very excited to have you here. Thank you for coming, my brother.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Why don't you give everybody who might not be familiar with Joyride yet, if you're not familiar yet, you will be familiar very shortly. What is it that you do?
Joyride's been in the game for 10 years now, actually, but we rebranded the company 2 years ago. It used to be called Silence d'Or. So basically a rap label established in Montreal, and we produce mostly French rap out of Montreal.
Nice.
So it's really like, there's a Canadian scene, but within Canada, there's a fucking French rap scene, which is even bigger, I think.
Of course.
We'd have to compare the numbers, but it's something important here in this province. And yeah, we've been doing it for 10 years now, producing French records.
French hip hop.
Yeah, French hip hop. Yeah.
So Joyride Records, when did you originally, when was your label founded, Silence d'Or?
March 2009. Yeah, so it's gonna be 10 years.
Wow.
Actually, we were putting on a party, and you gotta be there because our parties are crazy, man. You know that.
I'll be there in the full the Expos Yuppie, the mascot. I'll be there dressed as the Expos mascot with all my gold chains,
your bottles, yeah,
with a machine gun, and a bottle of Henny. R.I.P. Guru.
I'll be drinking the Henny.
I haven't been drinking hard alcohol in the last couple months, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So originally we met through a good friend of ours. Shout out my man Patro from 16 Pads Films.
You're right. We met. Exactly. Yeah.
We met. They brought this gentleman by my studio, and 16 Pads is in the same building.
Yeah.
And we would always, chop it up and talk hip hop and shit. And I've watched him grow his vision and his label, and I'm so proud of him, and I want to congratulate you.
Thanks, man.
On the recent and the continued success that you guys have had as a label as Joyride. Again, I would say an artist that's getting a lot of attention here in Quebec and in France as well is Loud, who I know you've been dedicating a lot of your time and energy into. Why don't you talk to us more about his project?
Yeah, the project kind of it became a life a little,
I bet.
When you spend it's 24/7 thing, like when an artist like that, starts just like, creating so much work for the entire team and everybody's working on one project, it becomes a little crazy because you want to put everything you have and make it work, but then you have all these other artists as well that you have to, keep, showing love to. So it just imposed a new rhythm in terms of, us being a company,
everybody have to step there.
Yeah, exactly. And, bringing in new people and finding a way to be more productive. Because at the end of the day, when there's so much work to be done with one artist, but you have all these other artists that are doing good as well, you don't want to forget about them, So it just became crazy, but it's just a great fucking thing to be in. And like, right now,
it's a good kind of crazy. It's a productive crazy.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Well, I could tell that you're definitely somebody who's obviously like myself and like my co-host Lemmy. Obviously, you grew up on hip hop. Yeah. You're very passionate about the culture.
Yeah.
Nobody dives into this game if they're not, if it's not a passion. For you, where did you start? What was some of your early inspirations when it comes to the, to the culture of hip hop and all?
I'm a West Coast type. I always love the West Coast sound, and ever since, I think it was probably because of the Chicano sound. Because I started listening to hip hop in 1988, something like that, and the first records that I heard were the Chicano rap scene. Frost, Mellow Menace, all that
Kid
shit.
Frost.
Yeah, all that stuff. So my sister who doesn't even listen to rap no more, but she introduced me to the rap game, and for some reason I always was attracted to the West Coast sound.
Nice.
And if you think about it, like the West Coast had this different approach to promoting rap. Because it didn't have all the majors. It
was very regional the way they rolled it out.
And out of the trunk thing, and so it was always being independent was the culture there.
Of course.
In the East, you had all the major labels and stuff that were creating all the business, but in the West Coast was a little bit more like
pockets, and I think like they had really great demographics for like regional success.
Totally.
Because California, as we all know, big gang culture.
Yeah.
And very, even within the prison system, very racially divided. So I think that might have set a tone, and correct me if I'm wrong, for people to really take pride in repping their hood.
Totally, and,
know what I mean?
and they created their own market in a way, you know.
Whereas on the East Coast, everybody wanted to be associated and affiliated to a big movement,
Right.
and a big machine.
Yep.
You know, where a lot of the West Coast guys like Mac 10, E40, Too Short. I mean, these guys really laid the blueprint
Yep.
for what the game kind of became pre-social media.
Yep.
Tech 9. You know, there were artists, I remember going to the West Coast just, you know, on vacation as a child, like at maybe 13 years old, and seeing all these artists huge over there that we would never even hear their stuff here, and I wouldn't have even known about them if it wasn't for the back of the Source magazine.
Yeah, well, I used to read Murder Glock magazine. That was
Murder Glock.
That was my shit, and Rap Pages as well.
Rap Pages.
You remember
Soon
that?
to get an article in Rap Pages.
Rap Pages was the shit back then, and and that's how I learned the business actually.
Yeah,
reading all these magazines, and you know, all these rappers that were also businessmen that were talking, you know, how they were doing that shit all the time.
And they had no choice but to become entrepreneurs because the labels weren't giving them
They had
a
no
shot.
labels there. So they created their own shit, and they created this new business model that really inspired my vision when I started doing rap. So it was about, you know, trying to do it on our own. So that's why we had no choice here in Quebec anyway, because there weren't any labels trying to sign any French rap acts, you know. So
did you start as MC, like as an MC, or was it?
I rapped. You don't know that?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
See, that's what I want to get to.
I used to rap, bro. I used to rap like this tongue twist shit, like Bone Thugs and.
Okay, yeah. So you were very on that Bone Thugs vibe.
Yeah, the Chicano tongue twist thing as well.
Nice.
You know? Yeah.
Did you like? Were you ever into Funk Dubious and?
I used to fuck with
and what's the cat that's in the wheelchair? Latino hip hop group.
I keep thinking Delinquent Habits.
Yeah,
they were a big deal when I was young.
Yeah, they
remember
were
that
big at some point.
Yeah, but you know who I'm talking about?
Right?
Psycho Realm. There you go. Yeah, shout out Psycho Realm. There we go.
Yeah, but so that was the thing, the Chicano rap and all the. I was really into Vallejo's, you know, all the Bay Area rap. That was my shit.
Northern Cali.
Yeah,
the
one of my favorites.
E40.
Mac Dre, rest in peace, was one of my favorites of all time. You know,
That's
and
dope.
their model was, you know, like putting out a lot of records.
That's right.
Doing their own distribution and going out of the schools and, you know, selling out of the trunk.
And that's what it's about now.
Yeah. So that inspired me I remember being like 12 and being like, yo, I want to have a rap label, and this is the model I want to go for.
That's
you know?
dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. Well, you know what? Congratulations to you.
Thanks, fucking did it, eh?
Because you've definitely done it, and you definitely did it yourself. I mean, I remember seeing you guys. Who are some of the other artists that you signed prior to Loud?
I'd have to say that Rhymes was the main guy for 8 years straight. And I think everything we do now and we learn, we own it to Rhymes, because he's the first guy out of the label that kind of made it big in Quebec. And we learned everything with Rhymes. And Shashu as well, because he's the first one that we actually toured outside of Quebec with. So
that's the producer, right?
Yeah, exactly, DJ producer.
Right.
So Shash and Rhymes are really the guys that we, like, for years we learned with these guys, and it kind of like created the foundation for us to actually one day being able to do what we do with Loud right now. Because I always say, like, if Loud would have signed Loud 10 years ago, and
you might have not been prepared to do what you need to do.
It would have crumbled, because it's you know, we weren't ready for something like that 10 years ago.
You didn't have the infrastructure. You didn't have the knowledge.
The experience, the way of, you know, like, the one thing that I learned with Loud in the last year is this capacity of saying no sometimes.
Absolutely.
Like, you spend your life trying to get a yes from somebody, like, you know, when you negotiate stuff, and now it's the opposite. You got to learn how to say no, and that's really fucked up.
Every opportunity is not a good opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And every opportunity is not.
So we got to that point where we have to know how to say no sometimes.
Can you give an example if you don't mind? You don't have to name any names. I'm just curious.
Just saying no to big amounts of money sometimes for a show that it's
that's crazy.
You know, a huge guarantee, but it's just not the right fit.
That's right.
And, you know, you gotta, like, analyze
protect the
stuff.
brand.
Yeah,
protect
the brand, and and you get a lot of people wanna, you know, just all the people that wanna have feet or whatever, you know.
Absolutely.
Like we get tons of different.
Oh yeah, that's endless. You know, it's funny you say that, because when I was coming up, you know, people would constantly, especially the kind of like music that I do, it's very like, you know, people want to, you know, feature you on their mixtape for credibility or whatever. And I would say no to 70% of offers I got. And I sure could have used the money and I would have loved to take it, but I never wanted to put my name to something that would not represent my brand properly.
Just for money.
That's it. And you know, like if it was somebody like you and I loved your project, I would do it for free because I would think it would be a great fit for me. So I would actually rather do things for free that propel my brand rather than getting a cheap little payday. And it's not about, you know, we're not hippies, you know, us three, we're all businessmen, but it's about long-term longevity. You know what I mean? And that's probably how, correct me if I'm wrong, you were able to take a very obscure French rap label in a city in a province that's not known for hip hop. I mean, business-wise, commercially anyways, and grown it organically into doing some of the healthiest numbers in the country, especially independently. So, you know, really, I commend you on that. That's not easy.
But I think Montreal is ready right now, like to really have these rap guys making it big and bigger.
There's a lot of kids today that are really good, like guys that are in their early 20s, teens. I mean, I try to follow as best I can, but there's a lot of talented dudes that are coming out right now. And
the scene is mature enough right now too, and it was bound to happen because it's, you know, this phenomenon we call rap. It's been a phenomenon for 40 years. It was like that all around the world, you know. So and we're just late. Like 5-10 years late. But
I think our problem was that and I've said this many times in past episodes, we just lacked an infrastructure to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. The same analogy you just said.
You're right.
Had you signed Loud 5 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to handle what needed to be done. We never had those outlets available until now. And that's something privately that, you know, me and the homie Los, we talk about sometimes, you know what I mean?
We've spoken about that numerous times too.
Yeah, you know, we talk
that's part
about
of this show, right?
That I mean, that's a major motivation for us building the platform. But we've even spoke, you know, privately, like about, you know, it's about creating an environment where there can be a movement that grows. And it's definitely not about competing or going head to head, but everybody finally pooling their resources strategically so we can actually get this off the ground once and for all. And I would love for you to maybe talk to, you know, the people out there about how France has embraced you and what that's meant to Loud's project.
Yeah, that's the other big surprise because
they don't really do that normally, right? Like normally, if it's Quebecois, that's considered like, and for people outside of Quebec that may not know this, like we're considered like the dirty French, right? Totally. They don't respect that. Like I remember back in the day, Sans Pression was like making moves, and then they go to France, they wouldn't get that same welcoming that we would give because our French is considered like the Bobo French out there.
100%. And I don't know, but I think it's most of the time when we discuss it with Loud, especially, like we think it's you know, all this internet era that like there's no boundaries anymore. So
the boundaries kind of
so people discover music from all you know, very globally. So, and the first thing that happened in France, and it started like 2 or 3 years ago, they actually started accepting rap from Belgium.
Wow.
Which they have the same opinion about it, right? Because their accent. I mean, when we hear French people speak French and people from Belgium, we kind of like feel the accent is the same, but it's not. Like they see the differences, right? So rap from Belgium was considered something weird as well in France for a long time. And there's pretty big artists that were trying to make it into France, and French people just didn't accept it, right? And 2 to 3 years ago.
Why do you think that is? Do you think France has like a vendetta against anyone that doesn't sound like them?
It's,
well,
you know,
it's the same
a big
thing
country.
that
they export their
it's like
music,
it's like
right?
the States, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
to me, it used to feel weird to hear like British MCs with a British accent. If they didn't sound like they were like from New York or from the West Coast, it was hard.
Yeah.
But now, interestingly enough, I think it's very swaggy. Like I like when I hear like that British accent rhyming on some heavy. I think it's cool. I think it's hip.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but it was like the culture had to shift.
Yeah.
So how did you break those barriers?
So I don't know, like something happened with Loud, the way like, because there's a lot of, especially from Montreal, there's a lot of kids that sound French, and they have this accent that is really similar to what they have in France. Even their sound is really similar to what they have in France. But my opinion is that at one point there's so many rappers in France. You know, it's like the States. So why would they want something that sounds exactly the same as what they already have there? You know, right?
They don't want to copy. They don't want to
copy because they're doing it better anyway, right? So I think with Loud, the one thing that made him like stand apart is that he's really different from everything else they have. You know. The accent, but also the way he mixes English and French in a very Montreal way, which is really natural, right? It's not like, you know,
that franglais.
The franglais thing, right? And in France, they're trying to do it right now. Like they copy Montreal a lot, but it's not natural. They're doing it in a proper way, right?
They need some time to catch up to us for once.
Sorry,
they need some time to catch up to us for once. That's cool.
Totally.
You're setting a trend there.
Yeah, I've been saying it for years. Every time French artists come here to perform and they meet the rap scene from Montreal, they go back to France with a little bit of our swag. Every time.
That's dope.
And so that thing, and I think just the production level, I mean, Loud is lucky to be working with some incredible producers, Rough Sound, Ajust. So the whole package was very unique, right? And the visuals, the videos that we made, everything was unique, and I think it just, you know,
the package was good.
Yeah, the package.
And I think that when the package is great, sometimes if the timing is right, magic can happen. And I guess in this case, the timing has been great, and the package has been great. I mean, like you mentioned, Rough and Ajust, very talented.
Yeah.
Definitely ahead of the game when it comes to production. Me and Ruff have worked a lot together recently, and I think that those guys were able maybe to give Loud a very polished sound production wise.
Totally.
And Loud was able to kind of capture something that they weren't doing in France, which brings maybe a uniquely North American vibe.
And I think that has a lot to do with it, Bless.
A uniquely North American vibe that's very exportable because it's French.
And that's why we started, like when I started promoting Loud, when we were shopping for a deal in France, I stopped introducing his rap like rap québécois, and I started using this new way of presenting it, and I started saying franco-ricain. So we're the French people from North America. That's how I want to present it. But we are American. That's the important part. And I think that's one of the things that they really like, because they feel like we're American, right?
You're branding it differently, and it's kind of like manipulating the words to give them like a sweeter taste, right? It's easier to digest.
Easier to digest. Plus, it pinpoints what sets us apart from their thing. We're North American, right?
Absolutely.
And I think they really like that. And especially all around the world, people that listen to rap in a way, what they're looking for is to try to grasp the North American feel.
Yeah.
And here in Montreal, we have that.
Sure, because
we're 6 hours away from the source of everything, right?
6 hours away from New York, 6 hours away from Toronto, which is, crazy dominating charts. A very interesting project and a very unlikely project. Let me ask you maybe a tougher question. What has been some of your biggest challenges as a young entrepreneur running your own company? What were some of your biggest challenges to get to where you guys are?
And if I can add to that, to get to the level where you're comfortable to have an artist that's successful, that's able to do it, what did you learn along the way that maybe you can share with people that want to follow in your footsteps and have that behind the scenes presence and be an executive in the entertainment industry?
Managing growth. That's super. It's a very tricky moment, because you feel like, well, first of all, when something grows like that, obviously the first thing that changes is the revenues, right? You start getting all this money, and if you don't control it the right way, you can do some stupid stuff that will make it crumble, right?
Absolutely.
So managing growth is really, really tricky, and it's been hard, because we have all these projects. We have the money now. We think, oh, maybe we should do this and that, but maybe it's not the right time.
Yourself.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. And when you have all this money, you think about ideas that are maybe a little bit too risky, and it hasn't been long enough for us to be like, yeah, we've been doing this thing for this type of money for 25 years. So you're sitting on a real structure.
Yeah, right.
You
don't want to get carried away too quickly.
Exactly. But you're tempted. Because you especially when you're a passionate guy like myself, I want to do this, I want to do that. So you try to do a lot of stuff, and if you don't take your time, you put yourself in a very dangerous position.
You could dilute yourself.
Yeah.
You could let yourself, be pulled in too many directions. Why don't you talk about, because I know as your friend, a bit about your background, what might have helped you learn how to, manage financial growth and scaling your business.
Yeah.
What background did you come from business-wise?
Well, I always was an A+ student, so that helped a lot from the get-go. Like, I've always been very organized and stuff.
You're the first one ever to be on this show.
Yeah, the polar fucking opposite.
But like I always say, like, I got a diploma from the streets and I got a diploma from school.
There you go.
So,
respect, brother.
And it's been like that all my life. So I think both things actually helped a lot because like I understand where I'm from, like from the gutter, from Chile. We left the country after the coup.
Wow.
So
tell us about that. Talk to us about
so basically, I was born in Edmonton.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I think you told me.
Yeah,
last time.
so I was born there, but we moved back to Chile when I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
And in Chile, we grew up in very fucked up neighborhoods. So
wow,
it's part of like those 5 years that I spent in Chile as a kid. I really like the cornerstone of my persona. I think it made me like this young little hustler. And
how old were you when you guys moved to Canada?
We moved back to Montreal when I was 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And from that point on, like, I was always really, really attracted to the streets. And I think if it wasn't for school, that I was really good at school, and now actually, because I played sports as well, I would probably, gone the wrong way. But I was really good in school, so I went to university and I studied marketing, finance, and law. So
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I didn't do I wanted to do the full degree in law, but I didn't like it. So I stopped after 10 courses and I did a certificate. And after I moved to marketing and finance.
So you were working in the finance world after university?
Yeah, exactly. My sister studied finance and she brought me like this one summer. I was like 24, I think. And I was working at this shitty restaurant and I got into a fight with the owner. It was a Chilean restaurant. And Chilean guys are so anyway, like I don't want to get into that, but I got into a fight and from them I just left, right? And I was fucking and I left the store with the restaurant and my sister called me like, yo, do you want to do photocopy for $20 an hour? Like for how long? Like 2 hours? And she's like, for a week. And I was literally like coming out of the restaurant, right? No job. So I'm like, okay. So I went there for a week and they were so overloaded with work that the boss came and see me. He's like, "Are you as intelligent as your sister?" And I'm like, "What? Like, no, like, but whatever." And she's like, "Yeah, I think you are. So you're your sister's assistant." I said, "What the fuck?" So that's how I started working in finance.
Wow.
Yeah. So doing photocopy and just went on, and I ended up working there for 10 years, man.
Oh wow.
So you must have learned a lot, working in the corporate side, which I'm sure was a tremendous asset for you once you wanted to start your own company.
Yeah, totally. Because working with millionaires like that, because we were like an investment firm, so you the standard of like the quality, the professionalism is really important. So yeah, that corporate 10 years really
great intro.
Yeah.
Also the level of respect that you must have learned for money.
Yeah.
Understanding, like coming from, a lot of us in the music business came from backgrounds of, no structure, not much formal schooling, not everyone, but a lot of people that I grew up around, and to a certain degree, even myself, it was kind of like, we were winging it. We were learning on the cuff, and either you fall off the cliff or you don't. And I came up around a lot of people who did, and luckily I didn't. But I think that's a tremendous asset that you might have been able to work in the corporate side for 10 years and then apply that structure and focus to your company is probably
100%.
a
It's
major
3 lives.
reason
It's 3 lives. He's lived 3 lives before he's even like halfway there. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why
you had the poor kid in Chile.
That's why
you had the student, and now executive in the music industry.
And that's why I wanted to have him on, because I think interesting people,
right?
Yeah, but those 10 years, you're totally right. Like every day at work, I still think the way I was thinking when I was working for the firm, the financial firm, because they taught me the rules about being organized in a corporate world.
That's it. And I think this is such an important discussion. And part of the reason we started this platform is I wanted to kind of pull the veil. I want to pull the curtain and let all these young cats that have dreams of being in this business understand what it's really going to take and inspire them, but make an informed decision. If you really want to dedicate yourself, be a guy like Los. Do your homework. Understand what it takes to run a business, to be a businessman, to be an entrepreneur. Not just thinking, you know, it's gonna be all pop champagne and live the rap life.
And listen to the podcast, because we're gonna get guys who are gonna tell us things that we might not know.
And definitely, you know, if you have you know, any questions for Los, please feel free to, you know, leave your comments and shit. And, you know, Los will definitely, you know,
I have a question.
Be back on.
Yeah. I'm curious where that transition happened from the corporate side back into music, because normally what would happen is you're a street dude, and then music, and then maybe you make that change later on in life. What you did was kind of like
reversal.
You went left and then right and then left again. You know what I mean? It's a different route.
Can I add on to that question though? What was it like? Because it must have been a big leap of faith, and it must have been very nerve-wracking for you to give up a very solid career in the finance world after 10 years to do some, you know, to pursue your passion.
Yeah, that takes guts. I was making a lot of dough when I was working there.
That takes guts. So you're taking a big step back to hopefully take a step forward.
Totally, but it's all on my mom, because I remember when I started working at the firm, I went to her place and she told me, like, I told her I wanted to do the label thing, blah, blah. And she's like, you know what? I don't really get it. I don't know exactly what you need to do that type of thing, but it sounds expensive. She told me, rap music, whatever music, sounds expensive. Here, I think what you should do. I'm not blocking you. You know, parents, they don't want you to do art.
Right.
So it's like you're going to waste your life, right? But she turned it around and just presented in this very intelligent way, instead of like blocking me or telling me not to do it. But she's, it sounds expensive. I think you should use your degree, find a good job, save money, and then you do it in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's
shout out to mom.
Exactly what
shout
I did.
Out to mom.
If it wasn't for that piece of advice, because she told me exactly what I needed to hear, because she was right.
Yeah. It was very sound advice too. Because a lot of people delusionally jump into this business not understanding, and this is something I always talk about, and you could speak on this if you'd like to, maybe better than most. It takes a lot of fucking money to brave the storm. And if you have one or two minor successes, you need to have a budget to continue with that rhythm, or else it just becomes a drop in the
just
ocean.
Managing cash flow, bro. It's crazy.
So if you could get the best feature, or you could get one track that's bubbling at radio, but if you don't have your ducks in a row and you don't have bullets for that gun, you ain't going to war.
Exactly.
You're going to just fizzle out.
Yeah.
If you don't have your, you don't have your shit lined up.
Exactly. So when she told me, I went back home and like, yeah, she's totally right. I don't have the money to do this project. You know, I want to do it. I want to do it, but I don't have it. So either we sell coke, or we do stupid shit, or I do this beautiful plan that I have. You know, like have the opportunity to be in this position and working for a great firm.
And
she never said no.
And
she never said no.
She never said no.
And that's something I would love to talk about. Like that, a lot of people, from being fans of hip hop, think that the street life is the only other avenue that could lead you to, success in hip hop. And I think you're a great example of, Dame Dash is an educated guy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who, live and breathe hip hop, and who didn't have to necessarily go the typical route that we always, hear about, that narrative. And I think a lot of people might cheat themselves by saying, there's a lot of people who have duality. You know what I mean? Look at A-Track. He got a great education. He had a genuine talent and passion, and he killed it. Dave One, his brother from Chromeo. Shout out Chromeo, another cat that I grew up with, very intelligent. I believe he was teaching, I think it was at Columbia, and then they continued doing their thing as a group. And, I was always very inspired by both sides of that coin, and it's a very glamorous story that we hear, Jay-Z came from the bottom, but, he was one of the
lucky ones.
And the lucky one is a rare thing.
Yeah.
It's not the rule. 99% end up in a very tough spot and don't get a chance to get their vision off the ground.
Yep.
Well said.
So that's something that I would love to inspire kids. Like, it doesn't matter what path you take. It doesn't matter if you're a bookworm or a street dude, and there's nothing wrong with either.
Yeah.
Just be real to who you are.
Totally.
And be inspired by this passion that we all have for hip hop, and do it honestly and do it for the right reason. Because if you have 10 years in finance or 10 years in the street and you're willing to put that 10, 15 in the business of music, then anybody can make a dent if they go about it smart.
Reach.
You know what I'm saying? And that's
I'm almost crying, bro.
And
Yeah,
that's
like I want to give you a
it's
hug.
true though,
No,
bro.
totally,
But it's
yeah.
I want to give myself a hug because I'm somebody who's been in this game since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And the only reason I never stopped pursuing it, whether it was, you know, starting a production company when I was young, you know, similar, I had so many doors closed to me that I had to do it myself. That's the only way I was able to get my first project out and to ever be heard, to being an artist, to being, booking, shows for after hour clubs and for festivals and for raves and all that stuff. I tried my hand at different things within the music business because I always wanted to stay close to it. You know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of other projects that I could have done that could have been more lucrative or at least a quicker payout.
Yep.
But it was something that I always stuck to because it's a lifestyle.
It is.
And we do this because we fucking love it. Do shit for the
it's all out
right
of
reason.
I love my parents. I love basketball, and I love rap music. I'd say that's where it is.
You know what? I would say
And my brother.
I would say your priorities are straight.
Right.
And shout out to your mom, and shout out to your mom, and shout out to my mom, who always told me, my folks never discouraged me from my dream, especially because I had a substantial amount of success at a young age.
Yep.
So people took my talent level serious and told my folks, yo, your son could probably make a lot of money at this. But my mom was always, wise enough to tell me, listen, I know you're great at this and you love this and this is like who you are, but you need to branch out. And that's something, if I could be totally honest with everybody, that I wish I would have done sooner. It's never too late to switch lanes. And that's kind of like when Lemmy and our producers had this idea, I was like, you know what?
I don't even want to take credit.
It does. But when that first time we talked about just building an honest platform, I was like, what do we have to lose? It sounds like a fun project.
Yep.
And that's where it always starts. Being passionate about.
100%.
Yeah.
But there was definitely times in
If
my
it's not
life.
fun, you shouldn't do it, bro.
Right.
Always lay that out.
And more important than that, if it's not fun and you're just looking for the payout, that payout will never come.
It's the wrong reason. Yeah.
Right. Success is a byproduct of being passionate enough about something that you become world class. Then the payout comes. There's like that expression, he who does more than for what he is paid one day will be paid for more than he does.
That's
right.
Bombs right there.
I always
knowledge.
I don't know. I think I completely,
you nailed it. Yeah.
I did the mumble rap version of it, but you guys get the idea. And that was something that, the three of us, I'm sure, have in common. We grew up as kids idolizing this hip hop shit, idolizing these big guys, and we set these super high expectations of ourselves that we're not grinding hard enough, or we're not successful enough, or we're not pushy enough if we're not getting this unrealistic level of success.
And you have a point there, because a lot of people think that the only way to feel successful in music is to be like one of these big top 10 guys in the world and being a millionaire and whatever. I always tell my artists, the ones I manage, I tell them, guys, the first thing you want to do with this rap shit is to try to earn a living, right? So instead of being working whatever you're doing, like calling center, whatever, imagine just replacing
That's so
that
Montreal,
money.
by the way.
Yeah, but it is.
You're either busboy or working in a call center, or the other option.
Well, you get a point. Like the first thing I'm telling is like, forget the millions. Just replace your shitty job.
Right.
Imagine if you get the same amount of money by doing exactly what you love.
That's it. By doing a hip hop night, by doing a night you host at a club,
right there, you're
making a 5 bills, performing twice a month, making a G, and whatever else.
Exactly, feeding your family, whatever.
You're paying your rent
with the music. That's the first step.
I actually did that reverse. I came out with Epic Mealtime and shit just all of a sudden 7 million subscribers, billion views. And now it's like backtrack. Okay, make a living. You know what I mean? Make a living and be happy with what you're doing.
Well, you basically did what every rapper does by mistake,
It just blow
which
the
is
fuck up.
if it blows up, they don't know how they got here, and when it declines, which we all know it does, they don't know how to get back there,
Right.
Or they don't know how to consistently coast.
But then you find projects that are balanced with making a living.
Well, you
and that's how you
hopefully-
get yourself.
Well, you hopefully
right.
do. And I think that, I totally agree with you, Los, that is it realistic that you're going to conquer all these massive milestones if you're not even feeding yourself from your art?
It's not.
So you got to start
gotta start
somewhere
somewhere. Yeah,
scalable
yeah.
and build yourself up.
And other, like, I think if you only aim, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't aim for the top, but you need to be
Build a solid foundation.
a solid foundation
Go step by
and
step.
being realistic at one point. If, like, there's more than just reaching for the number one spot that will make you happy.
Oh man, and that's something we spoke about
You can
recently.
be happy in the process.
That's something
And if
we
it
spoke
keeps moving
about.
forward, good. But if it stays at a certain level that you actually have a life, you can pay for your shit, be your family by doing exactly what you love. That right there should be
You're already
enough.
successful.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. And if that is enough, and if the process makes you feel fulfilled, you're already winning.
Yeah.
Right? Because the process in itself is where the ride happens. Life happens
Enjoy that ride.
on your way to being born and passing away. It's not, oh, yo, I'm going to be a miserable fuck if I'm not doing Drake numbers.
Exactly.
I'm going to be miserable if I'm not making this much. Well, guess what happens? Your life passes you by. And then you realize, damn, the best times of my life I ignored because I had this vision that nothing was ever going to be good enough if I didn't get there.
So the journey is more important than the actual goal.
Enjoy the process. And the journey of life, yes, but I mean, in relation to the music, enjoy being in the studio with your boy who believes in you, with a guy like Carlos who dedicated years of his life to push you up, rather than having this, fake superstar mentality that a lot of people in hip hop adopted.
Someone told me something recently, guys, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I think it sounds about right, that if you have 10,000 loyal fans, you can live comfortably off of your art. Now, whether
paying
that's
fans, paying fans, not loyal fans.
But that's what I'm saying is fans that are like die hard. You put out a new clothing line or a T-shirt, they're gonna buy that thing right away.
Well, I mean, do the math. If you could get $10 from 10,000 people, that's $100,000 every time you put a tweet out or a post. I would say that's okay.
I think that's the number. Someone told me that.
I heard something like that.
10,000 is the number.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Well, you know who talks a lot about that, and everybody could go check this out just on like a little music business vibe. Ryan Leslie became fantastic when it came to kind of cataloging his fans and followers. And he was able to create these little buckets of, the A data are people that'll pay, $250 to see him perform privately.
Yeah.
The B are people who download his shit and who support him on it. And then the C are just like random followers like everybody has. But that, he's on the grid. And he was developing, I think, an app to reach out to these people personalized from like a Skype proxy number.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, you guys should look that up. And I was really interested in what he was saying from like a data collection perspective, which I'm sure is something that you can speak on.
Yeah,
knowing your metrics.
It's one of the most important things right now.
Talk about that,
And
please.
all these streaming platforms that were like the devil at first, right? They're actually they prove the point, And one of the things that are really helpful with the data, the streaming platforms, is the data they provide.
Yeah. Priceless, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know where
knowing,
to spend your marketing dollars.
for one thing, you know where to go when you want to tour. So everything it's way more precise.
And from an independent label's perspective, I think that is the hack. Why would you spend $5,000 targeting your posts to people in Philadelphia if nobody in Philadelphia streams your music? If 60% of Bless fans look like they're in Toronto. You want to start your campaign in Toronto, roll it here, and then maybe grab your New York or, whatever affiliate for a guy like myself.
Yep.
If Loud is big in Quebec, even if he's buzzing in France, you still want to concentrate those marketing dollars here, because that's where you're going to get another 5,000, another 10,000 loyal fans who will buy his merch and who will buy those upsells.
Yeah.
So it's priceless.
So, well, it gives you the info on any idea you want to, like, marketing wise, because it can also, it could be the opposite. I mean, if there's a city in the province that nobody listens to Loud, maybe you should be investing a little bit more there.
Interesting.
Especially because of this, all this social media helps you through the viral thing. If you have a big concentration of fans in, let's say, Montreal, maybe you don't need to spend that much in Montreal. But whatever you want to do, at the end of the day, all this information will help you come up with ideas, whether it's investing or not investing, right?
100%.
And it's free data. So
use it.
Use it. And, we used to pay for that shit. And it was really, really expensive. Getting to know your market it's a very expensive operation for any marketing company.
Absolutely.
And now through these platforms,
we have these insights and analytics. I mean,
free.
You can type in your Instagram handle. It'll tell you how many likes, how many this, how many that, and from what countries. Yeah. I remember.
I spent a lot of time looking at the data.
We did, back in the day, we did an episode when Seth Rogen was doing the North Korea movie.
Yeah.
We did an episode with Seth Rogen and James Franco about the North Korea movie that never hit the light of day. It never came out, that movie.
Yeah.
And we looked at our analytics from that month, from that video, and there was 2 views from North Korea. North Korea does not have YouTube, first of all. It does not exist there. And that was 100% government. And I made a joke with my friends. We're on a list now. Like, if we're anywhere in that area, we're in trouble, because we pretty much like we went in heavy in that episode.
Might be.
Wow.
Dangerous. Yeah,
that's
dangerous.
the internet.
That's analytics.
That's the internet, though. You really never know who's watching. And
except in this case.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like Kim
North Korea
is watching my fucking video.
Yo, shout out Kim Jong, what I'm saying?
No, not
swag, Dennis Rodman.
Shout out Dennis Rodman, maybe.
Dennis, yeah.
He just started a podcast, Dennis Rodman.
There you go.
We got to get him on and talk about his show, maybe.
I'm willing to do his podcast.
Right? Same here. I'll go on Dennis Rodman's show.
Come on, let me.
All right,
Tell Dennis. Come on. But no, but I think that these are all tools that people need to embrace, because they're free,
totally. Yeah.
they're priceless, and these are gems. I kind of think, like, I talk to people all the time who are enthusiasts, or who want to be in this business, and this can be a very overwhelming endeavor. You can get lost in the details.
Yeah,
you got to start somewhere. You got to set realistic expectations and kind of just knock them down one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that obviously he who becomes good at that will be somewhat successful, and he doesn't will just.
How long did it take you to find your lane?
All my life, I think. I'm always doubting everything we do, like, in a good way, because you could be doubting in something that slows you in a way it slows you down.
Absolutely.
And you can also doubt in a way that it makes you better, right? And that's the second one, is the one I choose to to everything we do. Like, whenever I have a good idea, maybe it's not the best idea, So, and we're always trying to be 100% certain that the lane we're on right now, it's the one, But it'll change in a year from now. It will be something different, and I think it's the best way to keep evolving all the time.
It's good to pivot, but you want to maybe swerve a little bit, but you never want to make a hard left or a hard right, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Me and Los have been kind of going back and forth for a while now about maybe putting our heads together and coming up with some creative things that we've been wanting to collaborate for a while, in really maybe consolidating some things with the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that definitely I think it's just that time. That time in Canada, it's been that time in Quebec, overdue. And once again, that's what this platform is about, and that's what the label is about, to really give a voice to people who have legitimate talent, but who otherwise would be overlooked because there's no platform for them. Right? And we might need to be some of the people to help build that platform.
I direct, I make videos, so let's go film some young cats. I'm ready.
Super dope.
So I think at a point you guys had acquired HHQC.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm
we still
wrong.
own the site. Yeah.
Really?
So we bought it in 2010. Yeah.
For those who don't know, HHQC is like the Hip Hop Canada or the Hip Hop DX of Quebec.
It's hot new hip hop of Quebec, right?
Yeah,
Like
pretty much.
the French.
Yeah,
hot new
exactly,
hip-hop.
exactly.
but it's been around way before all of those. I remember.
It was created in 2004.
Wow.
I remember.
It's been 15 years now.
Right? A website in Quebec about hip hop, 15 years old. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's
I think they were even pre-World Star.
most likely. I would
I
say
think
so.
they might be
I would say
pre-World
so because
Star.
the guy that created the site is really like savvy, tech savvy guy that wanted to help out his boys from Quebec City.
So-
'Cause it was created in Quebec City, so it was before MySpace. Imagine.
Wow.
So it was really big and it actually helped a lot of artists from Quebec, you know, reaching out because it started before YouTube. So
Yeah.
we all
This,
the
this
videos.
was the platform.
Yeah, it was a platform. So there was no
So
YouTube.
you guys
back
were
then.
pre-YouTube.
pre-YouTube,
That's fire.
pre-Facebook and all that. So imagine.
dope.
So it was the number one way to promote rap in Quebec.
I think prior to you guys buying it, my label might have done a couple banners for my second album, The Book of Bless.
Oh, yeah.
They might have done.
Possible,
we
yeah.
were doing Hip Hop Canada and the Americans,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure I remember because Ray had produced a lot of my shit, so
Right.
he was like, "Yo, maybe you want to like promote
Yeah.
on to the French side."
And before Facebook, it was like numbers were crazy. Like
Right.
So obviously, you know, the kids right now they promote their music in a different way, so they don't need it as much.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt.
But
I don't
yeah,
think
but
it
now
hurts.
like we have, you know, as soon as you have someone full time on something, it's gonna, you know, create some, you know. So right now HHQC is doing good. I think we're like 150K unique visits per month, something like that. So
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
That's very
it's
good.
decent for a small community. You know, the demographics here in Quebec are so small that it's so
Right. How
you
many
know,
people are in Quebec? What is it like?
I think it's
seven?
like 8
7, 8?
8
So
million,
then
but-
divide that in half and then divide that in 8 because who listens to rap?
Exactly. There you go. So you take out all the people that live their lives in English.
Do you know what, bro? It's not like it was once upon a time because social media just melts everything together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think people are more open-minded than they ever were. Like,
You think people are listening to French rap outside of Quebec? I don't know.
well,
That's a tough
all
one. That's
over
like a-
Europe they are.
Right.
All over Europe they are, and you know the French are very prideful about French culture locally. That's why Dubmatique, when I was a kid, was able to do better numbers than anybody else winning the Juno.
Yep.
They were Dubmatique back in the day were selling more records just in Quebec than the other
They
groups
sold
were selling
150K of the first album.
worldwide.
Wow.
So there's definitely a big support for for cool French culture.
Right.
Yeah.
And something different too, right? Like some people don't even know the words. Like I've got some crazy, I don't know, like Eastern European music in my car. That's like it's hip hop, but it's like I don't know what the fuck they're saying. It just sounds hype, you know. I was listening to it today, so
I listened to Polish hip hop.
That's it. I think that's what it is.
because of Pat, right?
Yeah.
the song is
I've
drag. Drag. They keep saying that. And it's poppy, and I'm like, that's all I know.
Wow. Yeah, I've been listening to Polish hip hop for like 5 years now. Well, just because Pat, like you said before, we met through Pat 16 Pads, and we actually toured there twice. I've been in Poland twice for a tour.
I remember when you guys went out
Yeah,
there.
the first time with Pat and the second time with Shash. So yeah, but it's still hip hop. You know, and the flows are crazy, and I love their music.
Different, very
You know,
different.
Poland was always when Gangstar would go out and when we would tour in Europe, Poland was always like one of the big stops on any hip hop tour.
Why
For
is that?
American shit.
Their hip hop
Fanatics.
thing there, yeah, it's huge.
I would say
huge.
it's outside of, you know, outside of like US and Canada. I would say it's like France, Germany, Poland, Japan, like these cultures just really, really, really embrace the fuck out of it.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, and you know, like we were saying earlier, one thing that I think a lot of these young cats that really like hip hop need to understand, like, there's ways of working in this thing without being the artist all the time.
Sure.
You know? And most of the time, kids, I was a kid, you know, like I started rapping before I started doing the business part. And a lot of the kids want to, you know, be the forefront and they want to be under the spotlight, you know.
Right.
And they think the only way to really make it in hip hop is to be the artist or
to make an
producer.
impact
Yeah,
in hip hop.
exactly. But that can't be the case, first of all.
No, and don't be afraid to find your lane.
Exactly. That's why I decided. Me at one point, I was like, I used to love rapping. I really loved it, and I still do it. Like, I drive around, I freestyle in my car and shit like that. Yeah. But at one point, I was like, I will never be the dopest one. So why would I, continue trying? Like, at one point, you got to be logical and be like,
you got to find your lane within the confines of what you love to do.
Exactly. And I was like, I love this thing, but I'm never gonna be the dopest MC. So I'm just gonna help. My boys are way doper than myself.
You're a rare breed, because most people, their boy gets on, and now it's like, put me on. I'm next. You know what I mean? And they're not
but,
good.
At the end of the day, I think that Los understood the power in doing it from a business side.
Right.
Right. And I don't mean the power, but I meant like
Foresight.
that he could have a lot bigger impact on the culture by really using his skills to really like create a big vision.
Right.
And everybody, it's all about team. Nobody does it alone.
Yeah.
And no artist is just the artist. They're just the one delivering the message at that campaign.
And that's another big lie in like pop culture, this self-made man mentality.
Yeah.
They like it's impossible. Nobody's self-made.
No.
You can be a prick and be super egocentric. That's one thing, but like nobody's self-made, especially in music. Like, you need a lot of people around yourself to succeed.
You got 5 writers on any major song minimum.
Yeah.
You got 3 people
on the creative side, but imagine all the people working. If you
1000%.
If you get big, just to have a life, just to be able to enjoy what you're getting out of this thing, all this money, all this success, blah blah. You need people that just managing your calendar when you're busy takes hours, So all of these kids that think they can make it on their own and they don't need a team and they don't want to, they don't want to have a strong manager. They'd rather, just bring in their friends that don't know shit about music, blah, blah. That mentality, most of the time,
leads nowhere.
Exactly.
Right. Another interesting thing I would see, like a lot of cats saying like, oh, I need a manager, I need a label, I need this, I need that. And I always couldn't help but thinking like, are you making $300,000 a year off your music? No. Are you making enough money to even support yourself off? No.
Probably not.
Well, in order for a serious manager, or let alone your friend even, to be able to dedicate their time, you have to pay them a salary.
Yeah.
Are you making double 50 grand or 30 grand bare minimum salary to pay this person? No. So you don't need a manager, because you actually can't pay a manager, and so nobody would be interested in managing you just yet.
Yeah.
What you need is coaching, guidance. You know what I mean? Somebody like yourself to give them a little OG knowledge, so they could take some.
Be the dumbest guy in the room for a year,
and get their numbers up, and do some, non-delusional, concrete steps to where you could be attractive to somebody who's serious to dedicate their time like you did.
Yeah, totally. And you actually need a manager when there's something to be managed.
Bingo. Right. That's the point, right?
So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do by yourself at the beginning, but once you start moving, that's when you need help.
That's right.
And what I was saying before is, especially, I'm directing this message to the kids that think they can do everything by themselves, and they don't need a team, and they don't want to give away a little percentage because they think I'm losing them money. And I always say, like, you would rather have 100% of a small pie.
That's right.
Or 80% of a huge pie, right?
Or 10% of millions versus 100% of debt.
There you go.
I'll take 1%.
There you go. And I think right now, like in the Montreal scene, one of the things that I see is that a lot of these very, very talented kids are making huge numbers and, really catching on momentum and stuff. They need that help, and they need to stop being afraid of like managers or labels or whatever, because the label as we knew it like 20 years ago doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Not the same.
There's no A&Rs and a whole team behind you. It's, if you're a product, we'll help you get on tours. That's pretty much the end.
The reality is you shouldn't be scared to give away a percentage, because this team is going to make the pie bigger.
Yeah. Exactly.
So your percentage will mean more money for you. It's
I like the LeBron mold. LeBron knew that he was going to be a big fucking deal and told all his closest boys, you go get a business degree. You go get a marketing degree.
And then that's the same thing. Like we said, Jay-Z is the exception to the ones who make it out, right?
Right.
LeBron already knew, like...
He knew he was going to be
He was the one before he was the one.
The money's going to get made, so he's just like, he could have his mom help and his boy.
Right, but you look at Maverick Carter and his boys now, and these guys are big agents in They're
big agents because LeBron was going to be LeBron with or without them, though.
Yeah.
Fair.
And I don't want to shit on them because I don't know their business at all. Correct me if I'm wrong. But LeBron was already a big deal. And I commend him for putting his people in a position of power.
Right.
Because we had on the last episode my good friend Pat from Eventco. And he was saying, the way you treat people on the way up is the same people you're going to deal with on the way down. And everybody goes up and down. The difference is you want to get back up there. You kept solid relationships with those you didn't, step on the way up. And I commend guys like LeBron and guys like Drake that their shit was taking off big time. And instead of going with the big agent and the obvious guy, they put their people in a position to eat. And those people will really put their heart and soul into your career more so than an agent who has, Kanye and 50 other guys that, then kind of like wherever the deal is sweeter, they're going to put their effort.
Yeah.
Drake, and we always bring him up, put so many producers in a great position. And he didn't have to do that because he could have had Pharrell and Timberland and all these super producers producing for him happily.
Yep.
But he chose
the murder beats and
he gave careers to all these guys. But guess what? They actually were dope and they deserved a shot.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to, as Montrealers, as Canadians, continue to be just as prideful as these cats in Atlanta and in New York and in Cali are, and put each other in positions of power. Because guess what? If I get Lemmy in a movie and his shit pops, Lemmy's gonna reach back and fuck with me.
Yo, do
and
it.
if Los puts Bless in a position where Bless is working with the people he needs to be, that I'm gonna break bread with Los. That's gonna be my manager for life. And I feel like only now that things are so exposed on social media and with platforms like a podcast, are we starting to realize, back in the day when they'd interview Puff, everybody was kind of very guarded, they didn't want to let the magic and the secret sauce out. So they'd kind of sit there and do these guarded interviews and be like, well, we came from nothing and, we kind of just blew up overnight because, we was the realest ones.
It's not the real answer.
Like, there's a lot more to that story, but they didn't want to let it out of the bag. And I think now, we live in such like a reality-based society. Like people are hungry for who are these people? What are their struggles? What are they going through? And there's no shame. And I think that openness and that vulnerability in the business side of things when it comes to music, that discussion,
that's a good thing,
can create
a
much better momentum than everyone having the mentality of back against the wall in the club.
When we first started talking about this project, you were kind of on the fence because one way to present yourself.
That's true.
You've been trained a certain way to be Blessed the rapper.
I was media trained.
Yeah,
it took a while.
In a different era.
That's it, right? And guys like Guru and stay away from this. And if they try and direct the conversation there, divert or whatever,
but
my
I'll
publicist.
pick you up. You've elevated your what you're willing to go out on a limb and speak about.
Well, because
you don't mind telling stories. You're great at that. But as far as just being able to keep it real and give secrets,
be open.
Those secrets aren't I have a question actually. Sorry, I'm taking it off of you. I'm putting it back on you. I want to know something.
Yeah, it's fine.
If someone wanted to get in touch, if someone wanted to get on your team, is that something that doors are open? You'll listen to that?
Listen to everything that people send me. Everything.
So that's another gem. And that's actually what I was just going to say.
Great. Our great minds think alike.
I think a gem, if you want to be an influencer, right? Or you want to have a platform, you want people to check out your content and engage, you have to give them value. Okay?
Yeah.
And the best value we can give outside of monetarily giving away fucking free shit is giving people knowledge, giving them a fucking shortcut that guys like the three of us had to work our asses off for 10, 15 years to come to this level of clarity.
Still, I got a 12-hour edit when I get home.
And openness, right?
Yeah.
And I don't just mean, by the way, grinding. I don't think that just grinding gets us to where we need to be. I think learning from our mistakes is much more valuable than grinding.
I totally agree with that. Totally.
Right?
Grinding is a very macho thing about like, you know, like this mentality of always, you know, always having the pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
It's I think it's the worst thing society can teach a man or a woman to live by. Like, because that mentality, even though it's true in a way, because you want to grind, right? But taking breaks, taking time to reflect, taking time to analyze what you did,
taking time to make sure you're okay and you're happy and healthy spiritually, mentally, and physically.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something that, you know, in my own personal life, I found many times in my career, I was going so hard and I was so obsessed with this idea of success in the business of music and as an artist that I neglected myself a lot. We all did,
Same here.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, from drinking too much, you know, some smoke too much,
burning the candle at both ends, just doing too much,
to just not even just like on a wellness tip, like never mind the partying and then the abusive lifestyle, but just eating like shit, eating late, being on the road all the time. And, you know, there was no blueprint to become a grown-ass man in hip-hop.
Right.
There was no grown men at the time.
There was no grown men who survived. Our parents thought we were retards.
Right.
And then, like, the ones older than us were all, like, dead or in jail.
Right.
Like, if they were, you know, really keeping it real, they were gangbanging.
Yeah.
Or they were becoming, you know, too old and not relevant to you know what I mean? And I think
they definitely weren't sharing their secrets.
And I definitely not. And I think that hip-hop has grown as a culture, as a demographic. There's no more age bracket. Like, there's no saying dudes are not hip hop who are 45 or 50. Your fucking favorite rapper is damn near 50.
Right. And I think this podcast era has changed a lot too.
That never happened when we were kids. Our favorite rapper was not fucking 50 when we were kids.
Yeah. And look at these guys now. They're all, you know, they take care of themselves.
And they look great.
They look great. And they, you know,
you don't
after all these years,
that's it.
They take on a different route. Like they'll be like, yo, now I'm healthy.
So
now I work out.
Because
now I eat good.
Because
Dre. When you saw Dre with the tight shirt and the muscles,
because
like 10 years ago, everyone was like, what the fuck?
But we should talk more about that Dre than how much weed he smoked on the Chronic and which gangs he used to chill with in the death row.
Gucci Mane's the perfect example.
Perfect example. It's
go.
Amazing. Like, actually,
beautiful.
I find it totally inspiring because his career was he had a great career before he went to jail, right?
But he had a severe drug problem, self-admitted.
He was totally
derailing.
Yeah, and when he came out, like everything's going so, you know.
He's on the cover of GQ. Like this man, I look up to him now as like an older brother that I like saw do some dirt and now he like figured it out.
But can I ask you, Lemmy?
The music I don't care about anymore.
Don't you feel like these are the role models that we need to champion? These are the stories we need to promote and sensationalize.
We have
instead of going for the cheap view and the clickbait of the 6ix9ine. How many times can we talk about 6ix9ine and the catastrophe of a train wreck that he did, right? And the only reason that happened, and this is something that when we first started doing the podcast, we were talking about before the case and all the drama unfolded, was I said, remember, there's no way this can last. Not even a year, I predicted. Do you remember that?
Right, no, 100%.
And it wasn't because I'm a genius or a psychic. It's because I've seen people crash and burn.
The one trick pony that was based solely on hype.
And
yeah, but imagine the way I see it is, I saw a kid.
Misguided.
Totally misguided.
Totally misguided. There was no lows.
The kid was having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting all this attention, getting all this paper, and you know, he looked like a nice kid.
He is probably a nice kid. He's probably a smart kid. The problem is that the culture has become so perverse and so twisted where like we need to make a statement as a culture to be like, yo, it's not cool to throw your life away. It's not cool to rap badly on purpose. Okay? It's cool. And I'm not talking about being lyrical or bars. I ain't talking about none of that cliche conversation. I'm talking about we should aspire to take care of ourselves, to better 100%. Ourselves like Gucci did, to fucking marry the girl who held you down when you were in a fucked up phase.
She made him all kinds of money.
When
too.
you were in a fucked up phase, that woman held you down. You held her down. Bravo. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z using his stature and his money to help Meek Mill, to help 21 Savage. You know, there was also no fucking no union for hip hop artists. There was no fallback. There was no pension. There was no benefits. You know, and we need as a culture to be like, yo, if the kids want to drink lean, that's no different from, you know, our parents' hippie era. You know what I'm saying? It's okay.
Drugs are going to be there.
That's cool. But we need to have a different discussion. Like, do you want to live and be healthy and continue to have a dope life as an adult and still be hip hop as fuck? And what does that look like?
Can I tell you my favorite of that?
What does that look like?
I'll tell you who that is.
We need to figure it out.
Who you're describing embodies one of my favorite people in hip hop right now. And not even one of my favorites back in the day, up there, but right now I'd say he's in my top 3 personalities is Noriega.
Nori switched lanes.
And this is a shooter from like the block who actually had the best turnaround in the last couple of years.
Bro,
with the Drink Champs.
You forget about Fat Joe. Countlessly reinvented himself.
Right?
That's Joe, Guru used to tell me stories when I was a little kid.
Same cloth. Joe and Nori.
How Fat Joe used to take Guru around New York, and how Fat Joe was already super well respected in the streets even prior to anybody, you know, hearing about him as a rapper. And he was able to reinvent himself and has a beautiful family and is still financially successful and still stylish and is by no means old school. So these guys are trailblazing at the stage 100%. They're at, you know? And this should be promoted to these cats coming up. And that should be their goal. To survive, to make some fucking dope art and some impact on the culture, and to still be here at the end of it to enjoy it. And we've all, I correct me if I'm wrong, taken part in our own, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? In our own recklessness.
I was gonna say,
just because we were taught that that's how you are hip hop. You understand what I'm saying? That's hip hop.
And it's beautiful to see all these grown guys now, like we go to from Luda, T.I., Jay, Ross, Fat Joe, who else? Name it. Like
these are grown-ups.
The grown-ups that they're really bring this new approach to being successful.
That's right. You know? And I look forward and
spending your money wisely, doing
Black
the right thing for your health
is what they keep saying. Black excellence. I love that line. Puffy uses it constantly. Black excellence, and it's just like it's almost like an exclusive club of grown men that are doing good. You know,
but I think it's about positive affirmations. You know what I'm saying? And changing the narrative that, you know, all brothers, you know, need to be like super gangster and super tough guys, or they're not relevant in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And beyond black excellence or anything like that, just like hip hop as a culture, you know, hip hop's growing up. We all want to have a life, and we all still love the shit.
100%.
So what's that middle ground where we don't need to be fucking fat alcoholics? You know what I'm saying? Or still smoking hella weed like you're you know, a high school kid. You know, it's cool to be a father and run a label. It's cool to be
a positive person in society.
Great person in society and make fire music and throw some fucking opportunities to people who deserve it around you. So, you know, I hope we can continue this discussion.
Anytime,
and definitely, man, salute to everything you've done, you know, for the French scene,
really appreciate
everything you guys are doing in Quebec. Thank you for being on the show.
Where can we get in touch? I'm a young artist and I want to holler. Where do we get in touch?
I think the best way is through Facebook or IG. Joyride Records. Joyride Records.
Joyride Records.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're going to sign off like that on a high note. Your boy Bless, my co-host Let Me Know, the one and only Los, Joyride Records in the building. Thank you once again for being a part of it. Yeah.